I think we can all agree that dressing well is important and it makes us feel good. The only problem is that nowadays most of us have never been taught what it actually means to dress well. That's why in this video I want to go over some of the most essential rules that make dressing your best and looking your best a lot easier. And it doesn't matter what your budget is, because I personally mostly buy secondhand. So the first rule is fit over fashion, which basically means that the fit is the most important or one of the most important components of your clothes. And I was guilty of this because for me personally, my pants were always too long. I never noticed this, and then when I learned about this, I went to the tailor and I brought all of my old pants and I let them make adjustments to the right size. And the cool thing about this is that when things fit you perfectly, even the cheap one might look more expensive than the expensive one that doesn't fit you properly. So try to focus on the way clothes fit you, and if they don't fit you perfectly, just bring them to a tailor near you, find a good one that you can trust, and then just make some alterations. The second tip is to focus on quality over quantity. You don't need 10 or 20 different sweaters, you only need a couple of good sweaters that are from good material, a good producer. It doesn't have to be a super brand name, but as long as it's good materials, it's cut perfectly, you don't really need much more. And this is especially true when it comes to shoes, because if you buy handmade, high quality shoes, they might last you several decades. Whereas if you buy cheap shoes, they will probably break down within 1 or 2 or 3 years. One thing to keep in mind though is that sometimes you want to have some shoes that are not the highest quality, because there are some occasions, maybe it's raining outside, it's snowing outside, or in my case I like to take the bicycle a lot. And when you step with really expensive shoes on a bicycle, you might get some scratches on the shoes, and that's not really worth it. Tip number 3 is to mostly focus on darker colors, because it makes it a lot more easy to combine different outfits. And this ties in a little bit with the previous tip to focus on quality over quantity, because if you mostly focus on having a couple of really solid pieces, sort of like a capsule wardrobe, then you want to focus on darker pieces, just because it's easier to combine a navy blazer, for example, or navy pants or charcoal pants, than it is to have a light blue blazer or let's say pink pants. Of course, if you're shopping secondhand, sometimes you don't really have the opportunity to look for exactly what you want, because you're a little bit limited in choices. So you might find a piece that's a little bit out there, but that you still like. But because it's secondhand, it's quite cheap and you might be able to get it anyway. Even though you don't get a lot of wears out of it, it might still be a good investment. Tip number 4 is to keep your clothes as crisp as possible. So that means to iron your shirt, iron your pants, and also take good care of your shoes. It feels sometimes a little bit like a nuisance, but the good thing is, of course, you can put on an audiobook on Audible, you can listen to a podcast, you can use this time sort of as a meditative state, and it's usually just about 1 hour per week. But of course, if you have the money, you can also bring it to the dry cleaner. It makes it a lot easier, you save a lot of time, but it makes such a big difference whether your shirts have wrinkles on them or not. And the last tip in this video is to match your shoes, your belt and your watch. I wasn't really aware of this, to be honest, too much in the past. I never really focused on this, but now I always notice it. And again, this is one thing that women always notice. I don't think most of us guys would notice when a woman has a different belt than the shoes, but it's a very important style rule that just makes a very subtle difference, and it really conveys the message that you take good care about your style, that you really focus on looking good, and it's such an easy way to fix it. So just always try to match your belt and your shoes. So when you have dark brown shoes, try to use a dark brown belt, but when in doubt and you don't really have a belt, in most cases you can also just omit the belt, because if you have many different types of shoes, you probably don't have a matching belt for all of your shoes. This was part 1 of my rules of styles that I learned. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you have any other rules that you follow that you think that I should have mentioned, please let me know in the comments below. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and see you next time.